Hey y'all, Michelle here with Chaos Laser Life, and today I'm really excited to be able to walk you through exactly how you can make your very own cute earrings made out of acrylic using your Glowforge. So supplies that you're going to need for today's project are you're going to need some sort of acrylic. Now you can see here I have white acrylic, black acrylic. I'm also going to be using like this bright fluorescent green acrylic and orange acrylic, but really any colors of acrylic. For today's project they're going to be a Halloween theme, so that's why I'm going with the orange, the black, the white, the fun neon green, but really you can go with any colors you want. So you're going to need these little jump hooks. They're like little basically circular metal rings, and I'll put a link to all this stuff in the description below. You're also going to need some earring hooks. So these are ones for dangles. They're the ones that I can use with these jump hooks to be able to connect. So as many of those as you want to make earrings for, you're going to need those as well. I also have a pair of needle nose pliers that's going to help us put these little jump hooks together and help us create our dangle earrings, as well as a pair of scissors. And then if you also would like to use some duct tape, that really helps whenever you're pulling off the masking off the back of your project. The other thing that you might want for this particular project is an acrylic paint pen. So for a couple of the designs, we're going to be painting in the inside of the engraved part. As you can see here on this particular earring, see how the eyeballs are painted in? So you might want a paint pen if that's something that you want to do. Completely optional, but just know that I'm going to be using a paint pen for the project. At this point, let's go ahead and hop into our Glowforge software so that we can send these designs to our machine to get them to cut and go ahead and assemble them together. So here we are inside of the Glowforge app. Now you can see here on this main space, this is what the camera of my Glowforge is seeing, which is absolutely nothing because I don't have anything there in the bed yet. But what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and I want to import my artwork. So I'm going to click right here on this teal plus, and then I'm going to click on upload, and I'm going to upload this SVG file that says Halloween earrings. Now the cool thing is you can upload an SVG, you can also upload a PDF. The Glowforge app reads several different file formats, but for the purposes of this video I'm going to go ahead and upload that SVG. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to get this little message down here. It says your design's being prepared and arranged into the groups. It says that this design has a whole lot of steps because you have a lot of different colors. So the way that it's been designed, I did it in like groups of 2 since they're doing earrings. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this little message down here, and then we can see this is our file that we want to have cut right here on our screen. Now you're going to see this rectangle, and the reason why that rectangle is there is because that's the size of the acrylic blank that I'm going to be using. So I was using that to be able to get an idea of how many of these pairs of earrings can I put on one acrylic blank. Now, the cool thing is I'm not going to be needing all of those at once, but it was just there kind of for measure. So if we don't need that, which we don't anymore, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select ungroup. Okay. And then that way I can select that item and I can just get rid of it if I don't want it. Or if you don't want to actually delete it, let me show you what else you can do. You can also just click on your item here on the left hand side and you can just say ignore. And then that way it's still on there, but it won't necessarily be clicked or used or cut when you send it to cut. I'm going to go ahead and just delete it because I don't need it. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to look at all of my elements. So the first thing that I'm going to be cutting is black acrylic. So I don't want all of these cut out of black acrylic. I'm only going to do the spider and the bat. Those are the 2 that I'm going to have cut out of black acrylic. Now, here on your screen, you can actually click on your item and you can move them around anywhere that you want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click, drag, and select all 4 of those items and bring them right down here so that I can place my piece of acrylic down here, and then I know that these elements are going to get cut. I'm going to do the same thing with selecting the circles and the squares. I'm going to bring both of those down and put them right down here next to my spiders and my bats. Now, for all of this stuff, I don't want to cut that for this round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, my bat, I'm going to go ahead and cut. My skull, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ignore that one. I'm going to go ahead and ignore the little eyes for the skull. I'm going to go ahead and cut my squares. I'm going to cut my circles. I'm going to click on my ghosts and I'm going to ignore those. I'm going to ignore my pumpkins and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my spiders. And so now you can see these are all kind of like a dark maroon outline and these are a bright red outline. That's telling me, okay, these are the elements that are going to be cut on my machine. Okay, now the next thing that I need to do is I need to go ahead and I need to make sure that my Glowforge is turned on, my air filter is turned on, and let's go ahead and load our materials into the bed of the Glowforge. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lift our lid up. This is our sheet of black acrylic, black medium acrylic, that we're going to go ahead and place into the bed of our machine. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower this back down. Now I've gone ahead and I've put the piece of black acrylic here inside the bed of our machine, and you can see right up here at the top it's saying centering. And so we're going to go ahead, it's reading the piece of acrylic that's in there, and we're going to see it will show up here on our screen in just a minute, and then it will also say that it has changed the material. Also, what we can do here is if we want to make more than one of these or more than what's on here, we can actually select them. We can right click and we can say copy, and then we can right click again and we can say paste, and we can make more of them. So if you want to have more spiders or more bats, you can always duplicate those here inside of your software. Now, you can see here again as well, it's saying scanning. That means that it is looking in the bottom of the bed. And now you can see that black acrylic that we just placed inside the bottom of the bed is here on our screen. So we can see our pieces exactly where we want them to be. Now, keep in mind the camera is not exact. And we'll talk more in a different video about how to use a jig and make sure that things are exactly lined up. For this one, I'm not too worried about it because of the fact that we've got a pretty big piece there of acrylic, and we're not too worried about making sure that something's engraving or scoring in the exact spot. So as long as it's on your item, it's fine. We'll talk more in a later video about making sure everything is lined up. Once these are looking pretty good, which I'm pleased with them, I'll go ahead and I think I'm going to make a copy of these, and we'll do 2 sets so then we can kind of rotate some of the colors around. I'm going to line them up right here on our piece of black acrylic. I think I might actually, let's move these over. The cool thing is when you have these inside of your software, you can see how it will kind of change to a different color if it won't cut. So as the item, if it's on a space that won't cut, it'll kind of change colors. But I'm going to sandwich these all in there. So these should all be sandwiched in pretty good. I'm going to make sure that these guys, I'm going to make sure these guys are in there, scoot them over, line them all up. And then now I want to make sure that everything is in the right order. So it's going to cut all the bats first. I think I might actually cut the spiders first. And the way that we can do that is we can just click and we can drag and pull it up to the top. So the spiders will cut first. These bats will cut next. Then we will have these steps that are ignored. Then our squares, I'm going to scoot those squares up, and then our circles up. Okay, and then those will all cut next. So you can see all the sets of those. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit print on here, and that's going to trigger the
teal flashing button on my Glowforge, which I'm going to go press, and then it'll do our cutting. So let's go ahead and click print on here and then head over to the Glowforge and watch it print.
So now you can see we have this blue flashing button, which tells us that it is totally ready for us to print. One more thing though, before we hit this button, is we need to make sure that our air filter is turned on. Since I'm not exhausting out a window, I'm using the air filter, I want to go ahead and I want to make sure that that's turned on. Now, that's going to increase the volume, so just be prepared. Now we're ready to go. Hit the button.
And you can see here as your machine is printing, it will give you a countdown on your screen of how much time is left on your print project. And then you can see here inside your software, the countdown timer will come to an end, and then you'll have this message that says cooling down, and you'll hear your machine kind of, the fan will be going so that it just cools off, and then it'll say that the print is finished, and that's when you can open it up.
Now, once our screen has given us the okay and our Glowforge has cooled off, we can go ahead and we can open this up. And we can remove our items. And if we have a good cut, then they should all pop out. And then we can put this one over to the side for use later, and then we can pick up each of our elements. And if any of the little pieces drop through on your crumb tray, don't worry. We can go back through and we can open up the edge of this. And we can actually pick this up and clean it out. We're not going to do that right now. We'll do a future video showing exactly how to clean everything. But just know, don't worry if it falls through. That's what it's there for, is to help catch some of those items. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the pumpkins. So I'm going to go ahead and put the orange one into the tray. We're going to close the lid. Our Glowforge is going to read that QR code so it knows what the material is. We're going to place the pumpkins onto the acrylic inside of our software, and then we're going to come back and we're going to cut some of those.
So now you can see that our print is totally done. We can click on dismiss, and now we're ready for the next one. So it said lid open because I was switching out that orange, the black acrylic to the orange acrylic. So it's going to take a moment to read again what I've added in, and then you'll see the orange acrylic here inside the bed of the machine, and then we'll be able to adjust it out. We'll see up here also it will change to say medium orange acrylic. And I know that I placed it down here somewhere, so I'm going to go ahead and scoot those down and move these guys back up because I know that those are not on there. Scoot those guys back up. And while it's reading and registering, I can actually go ahead and I can adjust that I'm going to ignore my spiders. I'm going to ignore my bats. I'm going to go ahead and I'm still going to cut my squares. I'm still going to cut my circles. I'm going to ignore my skulls. I'm going to ignore the little eyes on my skulls. I'm going to ignore my bats. But my pumpkins, I don't want to ignore. I want to cut those. So now you can see it says scanning. That medium orange acrylic is now in the bed of my machine. And then it's changed up here to medium orange acrylic. So you always want to make sure that this item up here matches whatever it is that you're cutting. Now, for these examples, I'm actually using Glowforge proof grade materials. These are items that came with my machine. So I want to use those first, which is why it's able to immediately read it. I can also click here and I can type in whatever material it is if I'm using proof grade materials, which are items directly from Glowforge. Now for this, I'm just going to scoot my pumpkins over here to this side a little bit. And then I'm going to take these guys, just the pumpkins, and I'm just going to scoot them up just ever so slightly. Just using the arrow keys on my keypad. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to scoot these up as well. Okay, so now that I know which items I'm cutting, which are my pumpkin, my circles, and my squares, everything else is set. My material's in there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on print. And then you'll see it'll say preparing your print. It's going to be auto-focusing. And then you'll see again here the countdown. So we're just going to follow that same process again. So we can see that the Glowforge is now ready. My air filter's on. It's flashing like a bluish tealish color. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on print. And we'll remove the orange acrylic. So now that we have the all clear, we're going to go ahead and open up our lid. Remove the orange acrylic. Pull up all of our pieces. Okay, let's do the next color. This time we're going to be doing this medium fluorescent green. And we're going to do the same thing with the green as well as the medium white. Now for the medium fluorescent green acrylic, we've already switched that out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a few adjustments because we're going to do this skull in the green. I'm also going to do the skull in the white. It's totally up to you. Have some fun. I'm going to do these little ghosts in the green as well. And then we're going to do a whole bunch of the backers in the green too. But what we need to do here is we need to change the pumpkins. So we're going to click on pumpkin and we're going to say ignore. And then we need to click on our skull and we need to say cut. But then on his face, on those two little eyes and nose, we actually want to say engrave. And so you'll see that they change to a filled in color. So now those will be engraving. Now, one more thing that I do want to note is that typically when you have something that's going to engrave and cut, you want the item to be engraved first and then cut second. But sometimes it'll drop down when it's cut and it'll change the engraving. So just make sure that you engrave on your steps first and then you cut second. And then for our ghosts, instead of ignoring our ghosts, we're actually going to cut our ghosts. Now, the ghost face, we're also going to cut. We're not going to engrave the ghost face. We're going to go ahead and just keep them as cutouts. And then let's make sure everything else, we're going to ignore our spiders, we're going to ignore our bats. But again, have some fun with this on what colors you want to cut yours. And then now we're going to go ahead and we're going to dismiss this, and then we're going to click on print again. And then we're going to do that process one more time also with the white, and then I will see you back over at the desk where we assemble and put everything together.
Okay, so once we have all of our acrylic items cut, what we want to do, we can kind of dump them out here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find all of the skull ones that have been engraved, that weren't cut but that were engraved. Now, you can just leave them blank like that. Let me see if I can find one that has, without the mask on it, that's blank. I don't think I have one. Like this doesn't have this one's blank too. So they're going to be kind of like the same color as the acrylic, but it's going to be blank. So that's an option. For us and for this tutorial, I'm actually going to color them in. So I have these acrylic paint markers. Now I'm not taking that coating off of it yet. I'm going to go ahead though, and I'm just going to take the lid off of my marker, and I'm just going to color in that area of his eye. And I'm going to do this first so that it has time to dry. And again, this is an acrylic paint pen. Kind of just dabbing it in there. And I want to kind of get around these edges. But I'm, again, leaving that mask on there until after I've colored the eyes in. And so I'm going to put that over to the side and let it dry. And I'm going to do this other guy. Now we're going to put those over to the side and let those dry. And now it's time for us to actually take the masking off of the elements. So the easiest way to do this, grab some duct tape and just rip off some. We're going to cut off a little strip of it here. And we're going to use that to grab the masking off of it. So I'm just going to stick it down on there and then peel it up. See? And we're just going to do that all over the whole thing. Now that we have most of the covers off, these should pretty much be dry. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to peel the backings off of the ones we painted as well. So I'm going to use just that piece of duct tape
I'm going to peel that back off so you can kind of see what that looks like on the back. Do the same thing on the front. Kind of get it going there. And then peel it up. There's one. We're going to do that for each of these. To put those same eyes on the pumpkin, you could just move them around inside your software and scoot them over to the pumpkin and have them engrave on there as well. So lots of fun options there. Okay, now that we have everything kind of unmasked, it's time for us to put them together. So we have all of our materials here. So I have these earring holders, which are the part that actually goes in your ear. And then we have these larger little jump hooks, which are these ones, I believe are about 10 millimeters. And then these are the 5mm ones. So we're going to use a combination of the various sizes here, of the 10 and of the 5. Now, these come in a whole bunch of different sizes. So depending on how dangly you want it, is going to determine which size you're going to get. So to start off with, let's go ahead and set out our pairs. So for example, I know that I'm going to put these skulls, I want to put with these circles. And so that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to go ahead and let's just lay out what the different matchups are going to be to make sure everybody's got a partner here. So we're going to line up these little hooks, the bats, the ghosts, and let's just line everybody up. Extra, can pull those over to the side. Okay, so now everybody's got a pair. Now, keep in mind, the way I'm showing you how to do it is where each one has a shape and a character. You could also do it where they have multiple shapes. So like if you want to have 2 shapes and then the spider, or you want to have, you know, like maybe you want it to be a black circle and then a neon and then the spider. Get creative on how you want to end up lining them up. For this tutorial, I'm just going to show you these, but all you would do is just you added a separate layer onto it. Oh, I was wrong. Okay, so there is an extra ghost here. So we're going to put that ghost. These are these 2 white ones. Those can go with that. Okay, so and then now I'm just going to look and make sure, do these all kind of match? Do they look good? Do I want to switch anything around? Like, do I want to put maybe these circles with the spiders? Do I want to put these? I like these with the pumpkins, so I'm going to leave them like that. Okay, so now that we have them all kind of laid out in our pairs, it's time for us to start assembling them. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to start with this pair right here in the front, which is this ghost and this circle. And so I'm going to start with one of these larger hooks, and I can just kind of bend it and it'll open it up on its own. And then I'm going to place the ghost in, and then I'm also going to place the circle in. So I'm placing both of them in at the same time. And then I'm going to use these needle nose pliers, and I'm just going to squeeze that circle together. That little jump ring, I'm going to squeeze it together. And I make sure it's nice and tight, and I make sure it's closed and that it doesn't fall out. Then we can see here, now we've got a little dangle. And then for the top one, I'm going to use one of these smaller jump hooks. Again, I'm going to just bend it open, kind of push it side to side. I'm going to place the circle in there. And then instead of placing another acrylic piece, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my earring in there with it. And then I'm going to take my needle nose pliers, do the same thing, and just squeeze that jump ring together. You make sure it's in there all the way around that guy. And then squeeze them in. Then now, see how simple is that? You've got a super cute little earring, and you can add as many little circles or squares as you want. So let's go ahead and do that with the other one as well. We're gonna again use one of the larger jump hooks. I'm just gonna bend it open to the side. I'm gonna place in the ghost, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to place in the other acrylic. And then holding those two acrylics together, I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and I'm going to squeeze that jump ring together so that it fits and it's nice and tight because we don't want those earrings falling apart. So make it nice and tight on there. Okay. So now I've got the dangly part. And then we're going to take one of the smaller jump rings, place it in the top part of the circle, along with the other earring clasp, place that right in that top part of the circle. And then now we're going to take our needle nose pliers and squeeze them together. Squeeze it together. I like to squeeze it from the sides first to kind of close in that opening. And then come from this angle. There we go. And now we've got this adorable set of earrings of our little ghost. And so we're going to do that with each of these. We're going to create all these little sets of earrings using these little jump rings. And again, on this one, you can see we have the larger jump ring on the bottom and we have the smaller jump ring on the top. And then for this one, so we've got the large hook on the bottom part. I'm going to show you on this example what it looks like if you use the large hook on the top as well, because sometimes it's a little easier to get it in there and it just gives it a little more dangle. So place that in there and then squeeze the two ends together so that they don't come apart, and then rotate it around. And now you've got this cute little earring. We're going to do the same thing on this one.
and they're a little bit more dangly. You can see this one is a little bit more secured and tight at the top. So it's just personal preference. And I encourage you to kind of play around and see which style you like. So let's go ahead and let's make this set of these spider ones here as well. Much for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to see the types of earrings that you end up printing with your Glowforge, and I'll see you back next time. Bye!